I arrived back from my trip without notifying anyone. I had intended to surprise them for Christmas. The house was ablaze with lights. I could hear distinct laughter carrying from the main living area. I set my luggage down near the entryway and proceeded slowly. Out on the terrace, my husband was weeping quietly, his gaze fixed on the twinkling lights of the large spruce. Inside, my son was laughing heartily with his in-laws, raising a glass and a toast as if the world were perfectly complete. Not a single person realized I had returned. I simply stood there, observing, and I grasped the entire situation without needing to hear another word. But allow me to recount from the start how a woman who forged an empire came home only to find her family had been invaded, and how vengeance, when applied with surgical precision, can be devastatingly quiet. My name is Eleanor Vance. I am 72 years old. I am the proprietor of a collection of coastal inns in New England. 6 properties I built from the ground up 40 years ago, back when no one saw the potential for luxury tourism in the region. Today, they bring in $40 million in annual revenue. It is a life many desire, a success for which few comprehend the price I paid. My husband, Arthur, is 68. We married 45 years ago, when I possessed nothing but aspirations and relentless determination. He worked alongside me in those fledgling inns, managing the books when we couldn't afford an accountant, greeting guests at the front desk until the early hours, believing in a vision most dismissed as folly. We have one son, Samuel. He is 38. He's a consultant, or at least, he holds the degree for it. In reality, he has never truly practiced. He always had justifications: the difficult market, overly demanding clients, the fluctuating economy. And 5 years ago, he married Victoria, a woman 3 years his senior, sophisticated, educated, and from a family with established wealth in New York City. Since that wedding, things shifted, subtly at first, and then profoundly. Samuel began to distance himself. He visited less frequently, called even less. Victoria, it seemed, always consumed his time. Her family required his attention. Their life in New York apparently left no room for parents in Boston. Mom, you understand, don't you? Victoria needs to be near her family, and the work is there. What work, Samuel? You haven't secured a client in 6 months. I'm networking. I'm contacting leads, building a foundation. Excuses. Always excuses. All the while, I continued to send him money monthly. Support that gradually transformed into his entire means of living, because Victoria had certain expectations. She required an apartment in Beacon Hill, a luxury SUV, ski vacations in Aspen. And Samuel, easily swayed as he always was, found it impossible to deny her. Arthur suffered silently, witnessing his son drift further away, watching his grandchildren, twins, now 3 years old, whom we seldom saw. We viewed them more in stylized social media posts than in person. And every time Arthur voiced his sadness, Samuel had a rehearsed reply. Dad, don't be so sensitive. We're just busy. We'll visit when we can. But they never could. Except, of course, when they required something. Money for an investment, a loan for an unexpected medical emergency, an advance on his inheritance for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And I, like the devoted fool I was, always provided it. Because he was my son, my only son. And parents support their children, correct? This autumn, I decided to take a trip to Asia. Alone. Arthur had commitments with the Historical Preservation Society he chaired, and I needed perspective. Time to think about the business, about a potential expansion, about a future that felt increasingly uncertain. How long will you be away? Arthur asked. 3 weeks, perhaps 4. I'll tour some properties, meet investors, explore the possibilities. I will miss you. And I you. But I'll be back well before Christmas. I promise. I departed in mid-November. For the initial 2 weeks, everything seemed normal. Arthur sent me daily texts, photos of the house, updates on the inns, the mundane conversations that maintained our connection. But then, a shift occurred. The messages grew less frequent, clipped, infused with a tone I couldn't quite place. But it unsettled me. When I called, he sounded preoccupied, as if his mind were elsewhere, as if speaking to me were an obligation rather than a comfort. "Is everything all right?" I asked during one call. "Yes, fine. Of course." "Why? You sound different. Distant." "It's your imagination. I'm just tired." But my intuition told me it was more. Something was deeply wrong. And the more I dwelt on it, the more profound my anxiety became. So, I made a decision, would return early. I would tell no one. I would surprise Arthur for Christmas and see with my own eyes what was transpiring. I arrived in Boston on the afternoon of December 23rd, 3 days ahead of schedule. I informed absolutely no one. I took a car service from the airport to our home, a large residence in an exclusive neighborhood overlooking the harbor. A home I had meticulously designed specifically for Arthur, for his comfort, for his happiness. It was nearly 8 p.m. when I arrived. The house was completely lit, Christmas lights decorating the gardens, the tree visible through the large windows. And sounds, laughter, music, as if a party were in full swing. I paid the driver, retrieved my luggage, and walked to the entrance, key in hand, prepared for the surprise, for the embrace from Arthur, for the warmth of my home. But then I heard voices. Multiple voices. And a laugh I recognized instantly. Samuel? What was Samuel doing here? He was meant to be in New York with Victoria, with her family. I opened the door quietly, leaving my luggage in the foyer, and moved silently, drawn by the sounds toward the grand living room. And what I saw froze my blood. The room was full. Samuel, Victoria, and her parents, my in-laws, all of them raising glasses, laughing, occupying my house, my living room, as if it belonged to them. And then I saw something else. On the terrace, visible through the glass doors. Arthur. My Arthur. Sitting alone, a glass of wine untouched in his hand, staring into the dark garden, tears streaming down his face. No one was looking at him. No one had registered his pain. They were all far too occupied enjoying the celebration in the house I had built, with the money I had earned, completely ignoring the man who had sacrificed so much for this family. I remained in the shadows, observing, and I overheard the conversation, fragments that revealed the entire truth. Finally, we have the house to ourselves without Eleanor here micromanaging everything. Victoria, quiet down. Your father-in-law might hear you. So what if he does, Samuel? Your mother is in Asia, probably chasing some new deal. You think she cares about us? Does she care about Arthur, who's out there brooding? Just leave him. He'll get used to the new arrangements. What new arrangements? That this house is ideal for us, for the children. And with your mother traveling constantly, we could, convince Arthur it's for the best. That he should move into something smaller, more manageable. And we remain here. Victoria, this is my parents' house. And one day it will be yours. Why wait decades? Samuel, your mother is 72. With luck, she'll live another 20 years. Do you want to wait until you're nearly 60 to finally have the life you deserve? I didn't know. Victoria's father interjected, a man of 65 with the authoritarian tone of someone accustomed to obedience. Samuel, Victoria is correct. Look at this property. It's easily worth 30 million. And you're paying rent in New York. It's illogical. Convince your mother to transfer the property under the guise of estate planning, tax protection, whatever, but secure your future. And if she refuses, then we work on your father. Arthur is more pliable, especially now that he's alone, vulnerable. With his son visiting more, supporting him, being present. He can influence Eleanor, make her see reason. I don't know if that will work. It will work, Victoria assured him. Because, Samuel, your mother can't take it all with her when she's gone. And the sooner you secure what is yours, the better. This house, the inns. Eventually, all of it. But you must act, not wait. Victoria's mother added her part. And Arthur, poor dear. He seems so lonely, so abandoned. Perhaps he needs a reminder that family is here, that he can depend on us. That he doesn't need to be in a house this large, this empty, when he could be somewhere cozier, closer to his grandchildren. The rage I felt in that moment was unlike anything I had ever experienced. It wasn't explosive. It was cold, precise, and lethal. Because they were conspiring. Not just Samuel and Victoria, but her entire family. Planning to take my house, manipulate my husband, and steal the future I had built. And Arthur, my Arthur, was on the terrace weeping because he had likely endured these conversations before. He had likely been pressured, manipulated for weeks while I was away, and he had no one defending him, protecting him, because his wife was on the other side of the world. I moved silently toward the terrace, opening the glass door without a sound. Arthur saw me. His eyes widened in shock, fresh tears spilling over. "Eleanor," he whispered. "Shoo." I placed a finger on my lips. "Don't say a word. Just come with me." I held out my hand. He took it. No questions, no hesitation. And we left together, off the terrace, avoiding the living room, walking through the side garden toward my car, parked down the street where no one would see us, where no one would notice our departure. "What is going on?" he asked when we were in the car, his voice fractured. "I heard everything. I know what they've been doing, what they've said. And Arthur, we are not going to allow this. They've been pressuring me for weeks. Telling me the house is too large, that I should move, that Samuel needs the space for his family. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to disturb you during your business trip. You are never a disturbance. And you should have told me immediately. I was afraid. Afraid you would think I was overreacting, that I was being selfish. Never, Arthur. You are my husband, my partner. And nobody treats my husband that way. Not even our son. What are we going to do? We are going to act. But intelligently, coldly. We are going to show them precisely what happens when they conspire against the wrong people. But first, I need you to tell me everything. Every single conversation, every insinuation, everything. We drove to one of my flagship inns, where I booked the presidential suite. And for the next hour, Arthur told me everything. How Samuel had arrived 3 weeks prior with Victoria, the children, and her parents, claiming they wanted to spend Christmas by the coast as a family. But then the comments began, subtle at first. "Dad, this house is so large. Don't you get lonely?" Then more direct. "You should really consider downsizing. Something more manageable." And finally, explicit. "Mom should transfer the house to Samuel. For asset protection. To avoid future taxes." And what did you tell them? That I needed to speak with you. That I couldn't make a decision like that without consulting you. And that agitated them. Victoria, especially. She said it was simple. That I just needed to sign the papers, that you would understand. Did they physically pressure you? Threaten you? Not physically. But emotionally, yes. Samuel saying that if I truly loved him, I would trust him. Victoria implying I was selfish for holding onto such a large property. Her parents acting as if it were a foregone conclusion, as if I were a fool for resisting. And today? What happened today, specifically? Today, they said they had already consulted a lawyer. That they had papers prepared. That I just needed to sign. And when I said no, when I insisted we would wait until you returned, Victoria erupted. She said you were controlling, that I was weak, that I was squandering an opportunity. And then they threw this party. Like a premature victory celebration. Like they had already won. And I could only cry. Because my son, my only son, was treating me like an obstacle. Like I didn't matter. Like after everything we've done for him, I didn't even merit basic respect. I held him while he cried. And in that moment, I made a decision. I wouldn't merely defend Arthur. I wouldn't just protect our property. I would teach them a lesson. Samuel, Victoria, and her manipulative in-laws. A lesson they would never, ever forget. Arthur, trust me. In the next few hours, I am going to resolve this. But I need you to remain here, in the inn. Rest. And let me manage everything. What are you planning to do? Justice. Cold, calculated, and irreversible. And when I am finished, Samuel will understand exactly what it means to betray his family. I left him in the suite with strict instructions not to contact anyone. And then I made my calls. The first was to my lawyer, who lived in Miami but was reachable 24/7. Eleanor, it's 10 p.m. It's an emergency. I need documents prepared tonight. What kind of documents? Revocation of the power of attorney I gave Samuel. A complete change to my will. Disinheritance. And the transfer of all properties into a trust where Arthur is the sole beneficiary for his lifetime. After his passing, everything goes to charity. That's the nuclear option, Eleanor. It is necessary. Can you do it or not? Give me 2 hours. I'll have them ready. The second call was to my security specialist, a man I trusted implicitly. I need you to change every lock at my residence tonight. And install a new security system. With codes that only Arthur and I know. Tonight, Eleanor. It's Christmas Eve. Triple rate. And a $5,000 bonus. But I need you to start in 2 hours and be finished before sunrise. I'll be there. The third call was the most satisfying. To the local police, specifically to an officer I knew who had advised on security for the inns for years. Officer Chin, Eleanor Vance. I need assistance. Tell me. There are individuals illegally occupying my home. My son's family. And I need them removed tonight, with legal authority. Illegally, Eleanor? If they're family. They have no legal right to be there. And they have been harassing my husband. I have evidence of attempted fraud, coercion, and conspiracy to obtain property through deceit. I need them escorted out. Now that's serious. Do you have proof? I'll have it within the hour. But officer, they are in my home without my permission, pressuring Arthur, and I will not tolerate it for 1 more minute. Okay. Get the proof. I'll dispatch a unit. But Eleanor, this is your son. Are you certain? Completely. My son chose his path. Now he faces the consequences. While I waited for the documents, I returned to the house. But I did not go inside. I stayed outside, in the dark garden, where I could observe without being seen. Watching through the illuminated windows. Watching the party continue, the laughter, the toasts, the celebration of a victory they had not yet won. And I recorded everything with my phone. Clear video of Samuel, of Victoria, of her parents. In my living room, drinking my wine, using my house as if it were their own. Visual evidence that would substantiate Arthur's testimony. After 30 minutes, I captured the conversation I needed. Victoria was speaking to her mother, loudly, with no concern for who might overhear. We've almost broken him. Arthur is devastated. We just need to apply a little more pressure tomorrow, and he'll sign. We'll tell him Eleanor already approved it, that we just need his signature for the filing. And once it's signed, the house is ours. Legally. And if Eleanor comes back? If she objects? It will be too late. The papers will be filed. Samuel will hold the title. Eleanor can scream all she wants, but the house will be ours. It's brilliant. And after this, we target the inns. Samuel is the only son, the heir. With the right legal pressure, we can force a transfer of control. Especially if we argue Eleanor is getting older, that she needs help managing the business. Precisely, mother. In 6 months, this family will have what it deserves: wealth, property, respect. And Eleanor will finally realize that her time is over. That the new generation is taking control. Samuel chimed in, weakly, as always. Victoria, perhaps we're moving too fast. My mom is sharp. She's going to notice. Your mother is in Asia chasing deals she doesn't need, while we are here building a real future. Samuel, stop being a coward. This is for our children. For our family. Or do you prefer to keep begging for an allowance from your mother until you're 50? No. But. Then trust me. Trust the plan. Tomorrow, we pressure Arthur, he signs, and we begin our new life in this house. With this inheritance. As it should have been from the start. I recorded every single word. With a timestamp. With perfect clarity. And I smiled. A smile devoid of any humor. Because they had just sealed their own fate. With their own arrogance, their own greed, completely and utterly exposed. At midnight, my lawyer arrived with the documents, a thick portfolio with papers that would change everything. It's all here, he explained in his office, where I had gone to meet him. Revocation of power of attorney. Effective immediately. Samuel no longer has any authority to act on your behalf. Good. The new will. Arthur receives everything in a lifetime trust, with him as the sole beneficiary and trustee. After his passing, everything transfers to the 3 charities you specified. And Samuel receives precisely nothing. Due to, and I quote, conspiracy to defraud, coercion of a beneficiary, attempt to obtain property by deceit, and fundamental betrayal of family trust. It's all documented, all legally justified. Impossible to contest. Perfect. And the house. Transferred into an irrevocable trust with Arthur as the trustee. Samuel cannot claim it. Not now, not ever. It is completely protected. Excellent. I need copies. 10 sets. And I need these originals filed tonight. I don't care who you have to wake up at the county clerk's office. Get it done. Eleanor, it's Christmas. And my family is under attack. So, get it done. Triple rate, bonuses, whatever you require. But these documents are filed before sunrise. Understood? Understood. Give me 3 hours. At 1 a.m., the security specialist arrived with his crew. They began work, changing every lock. Front door, side doors, garage, everything. And installing the new security system with cameras, motion sensors, and an alarm connected directly to the police station. It's done, he said at 4 a.m., new keys. Only 4 sets. For you, for Arthur, and 2 spares in the safe. And the system is active. Any attempt to enter without the correct code triggers the alarm and notifies the police automatically, with a live video feed. Perfect. Thank you. Your payment will be in your account tomorrow. At 5 a.m., I received confirmation from the lawyer. Filed. Everything. It's official. Arthur is the owner in trust. Samuel is disinherited. And there is no legal way to reverse it. Excellent. Send me certified copies. 3 sets. I need them in an hour. You'll have them. At 6 a.m., as the sun began to tint the sky, I stood in front of my house with Officer Chin, 2 patrol cars, for officers, and complete documentation of everything. The recordings, the videos, the testimony, the legal papers. Are you certain about this? Chin asked one last time. Completely. These people entered my property under false pretenses. They have been coercing my husband. And they are conspiring to commit fraud. They are not guests. They are intruders. And I want them removed. Now. Okay. But Eleanor, your son is going to hate this. Your relationship. There is no relationship. Samuel made his choice. Now he lives with it. I rang the doorbell, pressing it firmly, authoritatively. And I waited. I heard movement inside. Confusion. And then Samuel's voice. Police. Open the door. More confusion. Then the door opened. Samuel, in his pajamas, disheveled, with the eyes of someone who hadn't slept well. Seeing the patrol cars, the officers, and finally, seeing me. Mom? What's going on? Samuel Vance. Officer Chen intervened. We have a report of illegal occupation of this property and attempted fraud. We need you and all other occupants to leave the premises immediately. Illegal occupation? This is my parents' home. We're visiting. Without the owner's permission, I corrected him, my voice flat. I did not authorize your stay. And you have been coercing Arthur, my husband, to sign fraudulent documents. I have evidence. Video, audio, testimony. And these officers are here to escort you out. Mom, this is absurd. We're family. Family doesn't conspire to steal. Family doesn't pressure a vulnerable father. Family doesn't plan to take a house through deceit. You are not family. You are trespassers. And you are leaving. Now. Victoria appeared in a silk robe, her expression furious. You can't evict us. Samuel has rights. Samuel has no rights to anything. This is private property, which is now in an irrevocable trust with Arthur as the sole beneficiary. And none of you have permission to be here. So, either you leave voluntarily, or the officers will escort you out. In handcuffs, if necessary. This is abuse. I'm going to sue. Sue whomever you wish. Here are the documents. Officially filed at 4 a.m. Irrevocable trust. Change of will. Complete disinheritance. All legal, all permanent. And here are the recordings of your conversations, planning the fraud, conspiring against Arthur. All evidence that can and will be used against you legally if you continue to resist. Victoria's father appeared, attempting to regain control. Eleanor, let's be rational. We can discuss this like adults. There is no discussion. You have 30 minutes to collect your things. Clothes, personal items. Nothing else. And then you are gone. And if you ever go near Arthur again, if you contact him, if you pressure him, if you do anything that causes him distress, I will press criminal charges for everything. Coercion, conspiracy, attempted fraud. And believe me, with the evidence I possess, and the lawyers I retain, you will spend years in a legal battle, losing every single step of the way. Samuel, Victoria pleaded, do something. She's your mother. Control her. She cannot control me. Because I no longer have any obligation to him. Samuel made his choice. He chose to conspire. He chose to betray. He chose greed over integrity. And now, he faces the consequences. 30 minutes. Start packing. I watched them retreat inside, stunned, disbelieving. The officers waited with me as the sun rose completely, illuminating a Christmas morning that would be unforgettable, for reasons they had never imagined. 25 minutes later, they emerged with their luggage, the confused children in tow, their faces a mask of fury and disbelief. I watched them drive off, escorted by a patrol car to the city limits, ensuring they were truly gone. When the last vehicle disappeared, I turned to Officer Chen. Thank you for everything. Eleanor, I hope you understand what you're doing. This will create permanent resentment. The resentment was already there, I replied. Only now, it's mutual and honest. I went inside my house. My house, now protected, secured. I walked through every room, observing the chaos they'd left. Dirty glasses, plates, the evidence of a celebration that should never have occurred. I cleaned it myself, restoring order, methodically erasing the presence of the invaders. And when I was finished, when the house was as it should be, I returned to the inn, to Arthur. He was awake, waiting, his anxiety palpable. What happened? They are gone. All of them. And they are not coming back. The house is protected, legally and financially. And Arthur, there is something you need to know. What? The house is yours, completely. In a trust one established tonight. You are the sole owner, the sole trustee. For as long as you live, no one can take it from you. Not Samuel, not Victoria, not her cursed in-laws. No one. Eleanor. He began, but I continued. And there's more. The will has been changed. Everything, the inns, the properties, it all goes to you in a lifetime trust. And after you, to charity. Samuel inherits nothing. Because of the conspiracy, the betrayal. Because of behavior that deserves no reward. But, he's your son. He was my son. Until he decided to see me as an obstacle, to see you as a target, to see us as merely a means to his greed. Arthur, we built this together, you and I, for 45 years. And I will not permit people who contributed nothing, who sacrificed nothing, who only waited to benefit, to take it. Even if those people share my blood. He wept. But this time, they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of relief, of release from the dread he had been carrying, from the fear he had been feeling. So, what do we do now? Now, I said, we live. Without the weight of a traitorous son, without the worry of conspiracy. With the peace that comes from knowing we protected what is ours. And Arthur, if Samuel ever shows genuine change, if he demonstrates true remorse, then perhaps we can consider a partial restoration. But until then? Nothing. No money, no contact. Nothing. Over the subsequent days, messages arrived. From Samuel, from Victoria, from her parents. Some were furious, threatening lawsuits. Others were pleading, asking for a forgiveness that rang hollow. And some were calculating, attempting to negotiate, searching for a settlement that would grant them something. I ignored them all. There was nothing to negotiate. There was no premature forgiveness to be given. There were only consequences, natural, inevitable, for the decisions they had made. A week after Christmas, Samuel appeared at the reception of one of my inns, demanding to see me. My assistant buzzed. What should I do? Have security send him away? No. Let him come up. I want to hear what he has to say. Samuel walked into my office. He looked wrecked, gaunt, with dark circles that spoke of sleepless nights. He sat down without an invitation. Mom. I am not your mom. I am Eleanor. Or Mrs. Vance, if you prefer formality. Because mom implies a relationship. And that relationship ended when you conspired against your father. I know I made a mistake. A mistake? Samuel, you planned to steal a house. To coerce Arthur. To manipulate documents and bring Victoria's family in to apply pressure. That is not a mistake. That is a criminal conspiracy. And the only reason I am not pressing charges is because Arthur begged me not to. Not because you deserve it. I'm sorry. Genuinely. Are you sorry? Or are you sorry you were caught? Because Samuel, I have the recordings. Of you, of Victoria, of her parents, planning everything. And in none of those recordings did I hear remorse. Only greed. Only calculation of how to take what you did not earn. It was Victoria. She pressured me. No. Do not blame Victoria. You are a 38-year-old man with an education and, supposedly, intelligence. You had a choice at every single step. And you chose to conspire. You chose to betray. You chose greed. Those are your decisions, not Victoria's. Yours. So, what? You just discard me forever? Deny your grandchildren? Destroy the entire family over one sustained conspiracy. And Samuel, if your children grow up seeing you as a model, seeing greed rewarded, seeing betrayal with no consequences, what kind of adults will they become? I would rather they grow up without my presence than with the corrupt example of a father who never learned basic values. Please, give me a chance. A chance? Samuel, I gave you everything. An expensive education, support when you had no job, a monthly check for years. And how did you repay me? By conspiring. And now you ask for more chances. Just one. To prove I can change. Then change. Without my help. Without my money. Without any expectation of an inheritance. Build a life. Earn a living. Support your family with your own effort. And if in 5 years, you demonstrate that you are a man of integrity, that you value family over greed, that you have learned your lesson, then maybe we will consider a limited reconnection. But until then, there is nothing. Understood? 5 years. That's a long time. It is an appropriate consequence, Samuel. You conspired for months. You planned to steal for weeks. And you expected what? A quick sorry and all is forgiven? No. Actions have weight. And your action was heavy. So the consequence is heavy. 5 years, or never. You choose. And Dad? Can I at least talk to him? Arthur will decide that. Not me. But Samuel, if you contact him, if you try to manipulate him, if you do anything that pressures him, it is over. Permanently. No more chances. Clear? Clear. Then go. And start building the life you should have built 10 years ago. A life based on your effort, not on my money. He left. And I remained in my office, feeling a bizarre mix of satisfaction and sorrow. Because I had won. I had protected Arthur. I had secured our assets. I had taught a lesson. But I had also lost. A son I loved. Grandchildren I barely knew. The illusion of a united family that I would never possess again. And that loss, though necessary, though justified, it ached. The following months were strange. Living in the house that had been invaded, walking through the rooms where the conspiracy had taken shape, seeing the terrace where Arthur had wept. Everything carried the weight of a memory that couldn't simply be erased. Arthur processed it differently. Some days he was relieved, grateful for the protection, for being defended when he needed it most. Other days he was melancholic, grieving for the son he had lost, for the grandchildren he didn't see, for the fractured family that might never be repaired. Did we do the right thing? He asked me one night, 2 months after Christmas. We were sitting on that same terrace, looking at the ocean that had always brought us peace. We did the only thing possible, Arthur. If we had given in, if we had let them take the house, what would have come next? The inns? Everything else? Where would it have ended? I know, but Eleanor, he's our son. Our only son. And now we don't have him. He abandoned us first. Emotionally, years ago. We just didn't want to see it. Or didn't want to accept it. But Arthur, a son who conspires against his parents, who sees his father as a target for manipulation, that isn't a son. That is a stranger with shared DNA. And if he changes, if he truly learns, then in 5 years, we will see. We will evaluate. But Arthur, it cannot be cheap forgiveness. It cannot be, I'm sorry, and all is forgotten. He has to earn his way back, with years of demonstrating a different character. And in the meantime? In the meantime, we live. We enjoy what we built. Without guilt, without pressure. Just us. But living without guilt was harder than I imagined. Because even though Samuel had betrayed us, even though he had conspired, part of me still remembered him as a child. An innocent boy who used to run on the beach, who used to help in the first inn. Before the greed, before Victoria, before everything became corrupted. And those memories hurt more than I expected. Because they suggested that perhaps I had failed as a mother. That maybe if I had been different, more present, less focused on the business, Samuel would have turned out differently. Arthur noticed my internal conflict. It is not your fault. Samuel had everything. Love, education, an example. He chose to ignore all of it. That was his decision. Not your failure. Maybe. But Arthur, what if I pushed him? What if my success, my wealth, created expectations he couldn't meet? What if the resentment grew because he could never measure up to me? Eleanor, many children have successful parents. Not all of them conspire to steal. Samuel chose the easy path, expecting to inherit instead of build. That is not your fault. It is his weakness. He was right. Logically. But emotionally, the guilt lingered. Like a shadow I couldn't completely shake. 3 months after Christmas, I received an unexpected call from Victoria. Not Samuel. From Victoria, directly. Mrs. Vance, I need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. Please. Just 5 minutes. Not about money, not about the house. I need to tell you something. Something in her voice, desperation, perhaps, or resignation, it made me accept. 5 minutes. In my office. Tomorrow at 2. I'll be there. Thank you. She arrived on time, without Samuel. No entourage. Alone. And looking different. Less polished, less confident. More human, maybe. Mrs. Vance, thank you for seeing me. You have 5 minutes. Use them well. Samuel and I are getting divorced. That surprised me. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know, it wasn't just my influence. I wasn't the only one responsible. But I also want you to know, I've had time to think about what we did. And you were right. It was a conspiracy. It was betrayal. And it was inexcusable. So why did you do it? Greed. Impatience. A feeling that we deserved more than we had. Mrs. Vance, I grew up in a family where money was always there, where I never truly had to work. And I thought that's how it should be. That wealth was a right, not a privilege to be earned. And now I am living in a small apartment, working for the first time in my life, in retail, earning minimum wage, and I am learning what I should have learned years ago. That money is earned. That respect is earned. That nothing is an automatic right. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know that at least one person from that conspiracy understands the magnitude of the mistake. And Mrs. Vance, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for restoration. I just want you to know that I learned. Painfully. But I learned. And Samuel is struggling. Trying to find work, trying to support the kids, trying to be a single father he never learned how to be. And I don't know if he'll learn. But I learned. And I wanted you to know that. I appreciate the honesty. Even if it's late. I know. And Mrs. Vance, one more thing. The children. Your grandchildren. They are not at fault. And they deserve to know you. To know Arthur. Not now, maybe. But eventually, when things calm down. Please, consider it. I will consider it. But Victoria, children learn from their parents. And if you don't show character, if you don't demonstrate values, then seeing them is just exposing myself to more pain, more disappointment. I understand. But Mrs. Vance, I am working on that. On being a different, better person. And I know it will take years. But at least now, I am on the right path. She left, and I stayed, processing the conversation. Was it genuine? Or was it a more sophisticated manipulation? I couldn't be certain. But something in her tone, in her appearance, suggested an authenticity I hadn't seen before. That night, I shared the conversation with Arthur. Do you believe her? He asked. I want to believe her, But Arthur, I have been fooled before by people who seem sincere. Maybe she is being sincere, he offered. Maybe losing everything, the retail job, the divorce, maybe that was her rock bottom. Her wake-up call. Maybe. Or maybe it's a long-term strategy. Earning trust slowly, only to try again. Eleanor, you cannot live in perpetual distrust. At some point, you have to decide. Do you give a chance, or do you close the door permanently? I don't know yet. But it won't be soon. And it won't be easy. 6 months after Christmas, a pattern emerged. Samuel was working at a small consulting firm, not as a partner, but as a junior employee. Earning a fraction of what he expected, but working consistently. I knew this because a friend of mine, the owner of the firm, contacted me. Eleanor, your son is working for me. Did you know? No. How did he get there? He applied like any other candidate. Without mentioning his connection to you. And honestly, he's good. Talented, hardworking. Different from what I expected, based on his reputation. What reputation? That he was spoiled. That he didn't work. That he lived off your money. But Eleanor, that is not the man I see. I see someone hungry, determined. Trying to prove something. Prove what? Maybe that he can be more than the son of a successful woman. That he can build something of his own. That information made me think. Was Samuel truly changing? Or was this an act for an audience that would eventually report back to me? I couldn't be sure. But at least he was working. That was something. 1 year after Christmas, Arthur received a letter from Samuel. Not asking for money. Not asking for forgiveness. Just sharing his life. Dad, I know Mom said 5 years. I know I'm not supposed to contact you. But I needed you to know. The kids ask about you. About Grandma. And I don't know what to tell them. Because I don't want to lie, but I also don't want to explain that their father was an idiot who betrayed his family. So, I just say you're busy, that you live far away, that you love them but can't visit right now. And they accept that, because they're innocent kids. But Dad, one day they'll ask more. They'll want to know the truth. And I'll have to explain how I ruined everything. How I lost my family because of greed. And it will be the hardest conversation of my life that I'm not asking you to forgive. I'm not asking you to forget. I'm just asking you to know that I think about you, that I miss you, and that I'm trying to be the man I should have been from the beginning. Your son, Samuel. Arthur cried reading the letter. And he showed it to me. What do you think? I think it sounds sincere. But words are cheap. Actions, sustained over years, those count. And the children, Eleanor. They're innocent. They don't deserve to lose their grandparents because of their father's mistakes. I know. But Arthur, if we see the children, if we get involved, then Samuel is back in our lives. And I need to be sure, absolutely sure, that this isn't manipulation. That it's not a strategy to reconnect and then try again. How can you ever be sure? With time. With observation. With consistent demonstration over years. But in the meantime, the kids are growing up without knowing us. That is the price of protection, Arthur. I know it hurts. But I prefer that pain to the pain of being betrayed again. He understood, even if he didn't like it. And he did not reply to the letter. Because even though the father in him wanted to reconnect, the husband who had been protected understood the need for caution. 18 months after Christmas, my friend, the firm owner, contacted me again. Eleanor, you need to know something about Samuel. What happened? Nothing bad. Quite the opposite. He just closed a big project. An important client, with a brilliant strategy. And the client was so impressed, they wanted to give him an additional project, directly to him. That's good. No, it's excellent. But Eleanor. Samuel turned down the personal project. He said he preferred it to be a firm project, that he wasn't ready to work independently, that he needed more experience, more mentorship. That level of humility, in a consulting world full of egos, it's rare. And that surprises you? Completely. Because he could have taken the project, earned a massive commission, started on the path to independence. But he chose humility. He chose learning over a quick buck. Eleanor, that says something about his character. That information made me reconsider. Was Samuel really different? Really learning the lessons he needed to? The evidence suggested yes. But part of me still doubted. Still expected it to be an elaborate act. Arthur noticed my conflict. You're thinking about him. About giving him a chance, before the 5 years are up. I'm thinking. But Arthur, I cannot decide based on third-party reports. I need to see for myself. I need to evaluate him directly. So, what do you propose? A test. Without him knowing it's a test. Creating a situation where he can demonstrate if he is truly changed, or if he is still who he was. What kind of situation? I am still planning it. But it will be something that reveals his true nature. Like I did before. But this time, hoping for a different outcome. 2 months later, 2 years after that Christmas, I created the opportunity. Through a third party, a friend of a friend, he contacted Samuel. He offered him a project, a consulting gig for a new coastal inn in Naples, with a generous budget and a commission that would be life-changing for a junior consultant. But there was a catch, hidden deep in the details. The client, the supposed client, was me, operating through a shell company. And the contract included a clause, small, almost invisible. It read, "Final payment is subject to the satisfaction of the undisclosed principal owner, who retains the right to modify terms at their sole discretion." A clause that any competent lawyer would warn against, because it gave the client total, absolute control. The problematic clause was a predatory one, designed to allow abuse and non-payment simply on the client's arbitrary decision. It was set up to see if Samuel would accept it out of desperation or if he would question it, protecting his interests as a professional should. The answer came a week later through the intermediary. Samuel had reviewed the contract and had questions, specifically about the satisfaction clause. He said it was too vague, demanded objective criteria, and would not sign without a modification, even if it meant losing the project. I smiled. That was the right answer. Not desperation or blind acceptance, but smart negotiation. Tell the client I accept the modification. The problematic clause will be removed, and the project will proceed with fair terms. Are you sure? I thought this was a test. It was, and he passed, I confirmed. Samuel proved he is not desperate, that he has professional standards. That's what I needed to see. The project moved forward, and for the next 3 months, I watched through reports. Samuel worked meticulously, designing an inn that was beautiful, with an attention to detail and professionalism I had never seen in him. When the design was complete, it was genuinely exceptional. So much so that I decided I would build that inn for real. Not as a test, but because it was good business. But first, I had to do what I had avoided for 2 years, talk to Samuel directly, face to face. I arranged a meeting in my main office at the oldest inn, the first one Arthur and I built 40 years ago, a place of significant history. I asked the intermediary to tell Samuel the owner wanted to meet him to discuss implementation. On the morning of the meeting, I woke early with nerves. This was the decisive moment after 2 years of silence. Arthur sensed my anxiety. Are you sure about this, Eleanor? No, but I have to know if Samuel truly changed or if this was an elaborate act. If he has changed, we consider reconciliation. If not, I close that door permanently. At 2 p.m. exactly, Samuel walked into the conference room. He was confident and professional until he saw me. Everything froze. The color drained from his face. "Mom," he finally whispered. "Samuel, sit down," I directed. He sat mechanically. "I assume you're wondering what's happening. You're the client. You arranged all this, correct? The Naples project, the offer. It was all a test to see who you are now, after 2 years. A look of understanding, almost acceptance, crossed his face. And did I pass? So far. You rejected the predatory clause. You worked professionally. You created an exceptional design. And, according to reports, you did it with integrity. That's something. But it's not enough, is it? I don't know yet. That's why you're here. So we can talk, truly talk. What do you want to know? He asked. I want to know if you understand, truly understand, the magnitude of what you did. Not just conspiring, but betraying trust, pressuring your father, planning to steal what you didn't earn. Every day, Mom. Not a day goes by that I don't regret it. I remember Dad's tears on that terrace, my arrogance, my greed, my complete lack of character. Words are easy, Samuel. I know. That's why I didn't call or beg for forgiveness. I just lived. I worked. I tried to be different, knowing only sustained actions would count. And Victoria, the divorce was necessary. She never changed. She stayed greedy, manipulative. I finally understood that if I stayed with her, if I raised our kids in that environment, they would just become versions of us. I couldn't let that happen. I looked at him, seeing a different man, thinner, tired, but more real. I asked why he turned down the independent project. Because I wasn't ready. For my entire life, I took shortcuts, expecting things because of my last name. I always failed because I never built a real foundation. I saw the temptation of winning big, fast, but I also saw the trap of falling back into old patterns. I refused because I needed more time, more proof to myself that I had truly changed. That was a wise decision. And Mom, I know this sounds calculated, but I honestly didn't know you were watching. I thought you had written me off completely. And that's why it's significant. Without that knowledge, your action was genuine. And that counts for something. Does it count enough for forgiveness? For a chance to reconnect? It counts for this, for me to consider it. For me to talk to Arthur, for us to evaluate if a partial restoration is possible. A limited connection with the grandchildren, especially, because you are right, they are innocent. Samuel cried openly. That would be more than I dreamed of, more than I deserve. It's not about deserving. It's about opportunity. But it comes with strict, non-negotiable conditions. He accepted, never mentioned money or inheritance. The reconnection would be gradual, starting with video calls. Any sign of the old patterns returning meant it was over permanently, and the will remained unchanged. He must build his life assuming he would inherit nothing. I already am, he said. And Mom, I don't want the money. I just want a relationship with you, with Dad. That's worth more than any property. After almost 2 hours, I made a decision. All right. I will talk to Arthur. If he agrees, we will arrange a video call with him, you, and the children. That night, I spoke with Arthur. Do you think it's real, the change? He asked. I want to believe it. But Arthur, we can't know for sure yet. We need time. In the meantime, we take one small step, a video call with the grandchildren. On Sunday, we had the video call. I saw Samuel in a modest apartment with Mason and Sarah, who we hadn't seen in person since they were 3. For the next hour, we talked with our grandchildren about school and games. It was painfully beautiful. Arthur cried silently. After the children left, Samuel stayed on the screen. Thank you for this. It was also beautiful, Arthur admitted. Your children are wonderful. Over the following months, the video calls became weekly. 6 months after that first call, 3 years after Christmas, we invited Samuel and the children to visit for a weekend with clear rules. They would stay in a hotel, maintaining boundaries. The weekend was careful, but had beautiful moments. Mason and Sarah playing on the beach, Arthur teaching them to build sandcastles. That last night, Samuel returned alone to talk. I thought I was securing a future for my kids when I planned to steal the house. I was wrong. I would have taught them that greed works. But now I'm teaching them that mistakes have consequences, that forgiveness is earned, that family is built on respect. That is a better legacy, more valuable than any monetary inheritance. 2 years later, Samuel came with important news. He was offered a partnership and needed an initial investment. He came only for advice, not money. When he revealed he had saved half the amount, I offered him a formal loan with interest. If it's a real loan, with a real expectation of repayment, yes, I accept. The loan was formalized. For the next 2 years, Samuel paid on time, every month, without fail. 5 years after that Christmas, Arthur and I celebrated our 40th anniversary. We invited Samuel and the grandchildren as an acknowledgement of sustained progress. Samuel gave an unplanned speech. My parents, instead of just disinheriting me and forgetting me, gave me consequences. And then, after years of me proving I had changed, they gave me a chance. That combination of tough justice followed by an earned opportunity, it saved me. That night, on the terrace, Arthur asked, was it worth it? All the pain, the separation, the toughness? Yes. Because, Arthur, we got something back. Not what we had, but something better. Something based on earned respect, not obligation. Years passed. When I updated my final will at 70, Samuel received 20%. Not for being my son, but for having demonstrated over a decade a genuine transformation. He didn't protest. He just said, thank you for acknowledging the effort. And, Mom, if I inherited nothing, would still be okay because what I got back is worth more. If you're listening to this story, understand that a family based on financial expectations is not real. I chose strength to defend Arthur and protect what we built. While it cost years of separation, it meant saving him permanently. The house I defended that Christmas is now a safe refuge for Arthur, for me, and occasionally for a son and grandchildren who learn to visit it with respect, not with a sense of entitlement. True love sometimes requires toughness. Real protection sometimes requires distance. And a genuine family is built on earned respect, not on inherited obligation.